One day, due to a catastrophic human error, a deadly virus was released into the air. This virus instantly killed everyone over the age of 13. Chaos spread worldwide, and vampires emerged from hiding to exploit the situation. Amidst the devastation, Yu, a young orphan, was running back to the orphanage with his fellow orphans. As he ran, he witnessed a shopkeeper collapse in front of him, vomiting blood and dying instantly. When the children finally reached the orphanage, they found their director dead. Mika, one of the older orphans, asked you to take care of the younger children. Suddenly, vampires burst in, capturing all the children and loading them onto a truck. 4 years pass. The vampires have taken over the world, using human children as livestock. They extract blood from them using machines. Yu and Mika return after having their blood extracted. Yu is deeply unhappy with their cattle-like existence, while Mika believes their life isn't so bad because he lives safely with his family. Yu vehemently disagrees. One day, Yu sees two vampires stepping on the hands of some children playing on the ground, showing no mercy. Outraged, Yu demands the vampires apologize to the children. The ruthless vampires grab him and threaten to throw him off the building. Mika pleads with them to forgive Yu. Fortunately, Ferid, a noble vampire and the seventh progenitor, arrives. Seeing him, the vampires release Yu and leave. Mika thanks Ferid for saving Yu's life. Ferid then invites Mika to his mansion for the usual blood-sucking session. He also asks if he will come along, which angers Yu. Mika calms him down, and they head home. On the way, Yu asks Mika how he knows Ferid. Mika explains that he lets Ferid suck his blood in exchange for good facilities and food. Yu becomes furious and leaves Mika. While sitting outside his house, Akane approaches Yu. When she tries to talk to him, he tells her to stay away because he doesn't consider them his family. Yu remembers the day he first arrived at the orphanage. Mika, trying to befriend him, told him that he was also his family. Yu responded that his father had tried to kill him and his mother had died calling him a demon, which is why he didn't want to be friends with anyone. Despite this, Mika didn't give up and extended his hand in friendship. Lost in his thoughts, Yu is brought back to reality when Akane asked him to come inside for dinner. When he enters, the children excitedly announce that they are making curry. Yu wonders where they got the ingredients. Akane tells him that Mika brought them. Yu immediately realizes that Mika got the ingredients from Ferid in exchange for his blood. When it's time to eat, all the children happily dig into the curry, but Yu doesn't touch the food. At midnight, Mika returns from Ferid's mansion. Yu is awake, waiting for him inside. As soon as Mika enters the house, Yu declares that next time, they will use his blood to get the goods. They sit together to eat, and Mika shows Yu a gun he stole from Ferid's mansion, along with a map that can help them escape. Yu agrees to the plan. Under the cover of darkness, they gather all the children and set out. Using the map, they navigate through a tunnel built under the city, hoping to find freedom. Despite some guard vampires catching a hint of their presence, they cleverly hide behind a wall. Finally, the children reach the end of the tunnel, feeling a wave of happiness at the thought of imminent freedom. However, their joy turns to despair and fear when they see Ferid waiting for them at the tunnel's exit. Ferid reveals that their arrival to this place was a trap. He knew Mika had stolen the map and the gun from his mansion. He then swiftly grabbed one of them and killed him. Despite Yu's attempts to stop him by shooting, Ferid remains unstoppable, ruthlessly murdering each cattle one by one in front of them. Devastated, Mika grabs the gun from Yu and tries to confront Ferid, but Ferid wounds him badly, slashing his hand. In desperation, Yu takes the gun and shoots Ferid in the head, killing him on the spot. Severely injured, Mika tells Yu to leave and save himself. Although Yu is reluctant to abandon Mika, he has no choice and leaves with a heavy heart. He stumbles out of the city, eventually finding his way through the road. As soon as he comes out, Yu meets Colonel Guren of the Japanese Imperial Demon Army. Guren tells him that, according to prophecy, they have found Yu at this place and time, and they will use him to eliminate the vampires from the world. Yu, overwhelmed with grief, doesn't ask any questions. Instead, with tears streaming down his face, he pleads with Guren to use him to destroy the vampires. 4 years have passed since that painful incident. Yu has transformed from a weak captive to a strong soldier. While guarding outside the city, a blood-sucking horseman attacks them. Despite his senior soldier's orders to retreat, Yu disobeys and fights the horseman alone, ultimately killing it with his shining sword. However, due to his disobedience, he is suspended and sent back to normal school. Frustrated, Yu starts arguing with the teacher. Shirnoa Haragi, sitting behind him, informs him that the army has sent her to keep an eye on him. She warns that if he doesn't cooperate in class, his suspension will be extended. Additionally, his suspension will not end until he makes at least one friend in school. While sitting in class, Yu recalls the day 4 years ago when he first met Colonel Guren. He was surprised to see humans alive outside the city, having believed that humanity had been wiped out. Guren explained that only 10% of humans survived the virus, and in the ensuing chaos, strange blood-sucking demons had arisen worldwide. Despite the devastation, humans continue to fight. Guren promised you that if he joined the army, he'll become strong enough to fight the vampires. However, even after 4 years, Yu hasn't seen Guren again. Shirnoa encourages you to make friends with the other boys, but he shows no interest. She speculates that you might be afraid of forming new connections due to the loss of his family. Yu insists that he doesn't need more training. He's strong enough to fight the vampires on his own. He demands to see Guren. Shirnoa gives him a letter from Guren stating that he will meet you only if he can make friends. Furious after reading this, Yu storms out of the class, with Shirnoa following him. Outside, they encounter Yoichi, who is being harassed by a group of boys. Yu intervenes, but the boys quickly surround him. As he prepares to fight them, Shirnoa intervenes, reminding him that he cannot engage with ordinary citizens. Consequently, Yu is forced to help Yoichi with his chores as a form of compensation. Yu asks Yoichi why he endures the harassment from the boys. Yoichi explains that he failed the entrance exam to join the Japanese demon army. However, one of the boys who has been selected for the elite vampire extermination unit, the Moon Demon Company, might help him retake the exam. Despite being a coward, Yoichi is determined to join the army to avenge his sister, who was killed by vampires in front of him. After hearing Yoichi's story, Yu advises him not to join the army, believing he is too weak for such a task. Yu begins to walk away when suddenly, a massive explosion erupts from a nearby building. They learn that a vampire has escaped from the biological research faculty. Shirnoa urges them to flee, but Yu is determined to kill the vampire and prove to Guren that he is strong enough to fight the vampires. As all the children begin evacuating the school, Yu heads inside to confront the vampire. He retrieves his sword from the locker and goes to the classroom where the vampire has a girl captive. The boy who had been harassing him is also present. Yu engages in a fierce battle with a nimble vampire, managing to cut her hand despite her agility. He asks the boy for help in evacuating the students, but the boy admits he had lied about joining the army. Meanwhile, the vampire grabs the girl and is about to drain her blood. Just then, Yoichi intervenes and tackles the vampire away from the girl. Yu tries to protect Yoichi from the vampire's attack, but the vampire begins to overpower him. Both Yu and the vampire end up falling out of the window. During the fall, Yu's sword impales the vampire, but she remains alive. Just then, Guren arrives with his team, the Moon Demon Company, and swiftly kills the vampire with his cursed sword. He reprimands Yu for engaging the vampire without a cursed weapon. Seeing Guren and the Moon Demon Company, Yu asks to be recruited into their ranks, arguing that he fought the vampire as well. However, Guren remains firm, insisting that Yu will not be accepted into the company until he makes a friend. Yoichi arrives, worried about Yu, and relieved to find him safe, embraces him. The sudden impact causes Yu to lose consciousness. When he wakes up in the hospital, Shirnoa informs him that he has been accepted into the vampire extermination unit. Additionally, Yoichi has also been accepted for his bravery. Later, Shirnoa meets Yu on the school roof. Yu questions why he is still attending school despite joining the extermination unit. Shirnoa explains that his training has already begun, and then reveals her cursed weapon, which contains a demon. Yu, seeing the power of the weapon, believes that possessing it will allow him to kill vampires on his own. Driven by greed, he challenges Shirnoa to a fight. However, he quickly realizes his mistake as Shirnoa overpowers him, using her demon to throw him against the wall. Despite his pain, Yu is impressed by the weapon, believing it will make vampire hunting easier. Shirnoa cautions him that vampires also possess unique weapons. Just then, Yoichi arrives, running from a group of boys who had been bullying him. They plead for help, and Yu is puzzled as to why these boys are turning to Yoichi. They explain that their friend has gone into the Forbidden Chamber and has not returned. Shirnoa informs them that the Forbidden Chamber is a highly restricted area of the army, and anyone caught entering it faces the death penalty. Later, Yu inquires about the Forbidden Chamber. Shirnoa explains that it is actually a secret facility used to train members of the Vampire Extermination Unit. If someone enters without permission, demons within the facility will possess them. Shirnoa then takes Yu and Yoichi to a location beneath the school, where they encounter a door covered in numerous spells. Yu enters the chamber and finds the boy from earlier, who is now controlled by a large axe. Shirnoa warns Yu to leave, but he disregards her advice and attempts to take the axe. He tries to wrest the axe away from the possessed boy with his sword, but Shirnoa intervenes, using her weapon to stop him. She explains that his heart is still weak, and if he touches the cursed weapon with such weakness, he will fall under the demon's control. Despite Shirnoa's warnings, Yu persists. He fights the possessed boy and manages to seize the axe. However, as soon as he grasps it, the demon within the axe begins to exert control over him. The demon shows you a dream where all his deceased family members are alive and joyfully eating together. Yu is astonished to see them and is confused about how they could be alive. They tell him that they were killed by vampires and urge him to avenge their deaths. Consumed by the fire of revenge, the demon begins to take control of Yu's heart. However, Yu breaks free from the illusion, realizing that Mika would never force him to seek revenge. He begins to question the demon about its true identity, which shatters the illusion and releases him from the demon's control. Yu then asks Shirnoa if the cursed axe has become his. Shirnoa explains that the axe is not yet his. Instead, Giran will provide him with his own cursed weapon after a special exam. Yu is overjoyed by this news. In another city in Japan, a horseman attacks a human area, causing panic as people flee for their lives. Mika arrives on the scene and powers up his sword by allowing it to absorb his blood. With a single decisive strike, he kills the horseman. Two vampire companions of Mika arrive and praise his strength, noting that he has become a powerful vampire after drinking the blood of the third progenitor, Teeps. They inform the humans that their area is now under their control, and they must provide blood in exchange for protection. Mika stands apart from the commotion. A girl approaches Mika, asking him to drink her blood as thanks for saving her life, but Mika refuses. He is haunted by memories of 4 years ago when Ferid killed his entire family. After you escaped, the vampire queen Teeps arrived. She demanded that Ferid stop pretending to be dead and stand up. When Ferid complied, Kroll questioned why he allowed one of the Seraphs, Yu, to escape and severely injure Mika. Ferid responded that meddling with the Seraph's curse was too risky and threatened to inform the progenitor council. Kroll, angered by the threat, attacked Ferid and knocked him to the ground. Realizing his life was in danger, Ferid promised not to interfere with her affairs, and Kroll, satisfied with his pledge, spared him. Kroll then bit her own lip to extract blood and fed it to Mika. Transformed by the blood, Mika became a formidable vampire. Meanwhile, Shirnoa brings Yu and Yoichi to meet Giran for their weapons training. Giran instructs them to introduce themselves to the class. Yu, however, shows no interest and declines to participate. When he takes his seat, he finds Kimizuki, with whom he had a confrontation earlier that morning. The two quickly resume their fight in the classroom. Giran, observing the commotion, inquires about the cause of their conflict. Shirnoa explains that Kimizuki had fought with you earlier to assess his strength. Giran intervenes, breaking up the fight with a decisive kick, and calms both of them down. The next day, preparations for the Infernal Arm Aptitude Test, scheduled for the following week, begin. Students who do not perform well during the preparation will be excluded from the test. The instructor instructs everyone to pair up. While Shirnoa pairs with Yoichi, Yu is left with no choice but to team up with Kimizuki. During the practice, the students are required to fight against large cursed dolls. However, Yu and Kimizuki struggle to coordinate effectively. Suddenly, the practice is stopped. The instructor informs Kimizuki that his sister's health is deteriorating. Despite this, Kimizuki insists on continuing the practice. Yu, recognizing the urgency, punches Kimizuki and urges him to go to his sister, stressing that family is important. Yu decides to leave the practice as well and accompanies Kimizuki to the hospital. There, the doctor advises that Kimizuki's sister needs to be admitted to the army hospital due to the worsening effects of the virus. Kimizuki hopes to join the Moon Demon Company to secure her admission, but he is disheartened by the prospect of losing marks for leaving practice midway. Yu encourages Kimizuki not to give up so easily, rekindling his determination. This support helps Kimizuki regain his enthusiasm, and they both become friends.